Yo, I was so bored for 2 hours and then all of a sudden there's naked middle-aged people in the forest and he starts floating around and he's the Satan King. What the fuck? This was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Bullshit! Bullshit, I say! This is not Marvel, this is junk! Cancer! Scream is a cancer!
Believe it or not, this movie is just pure crap. But this movie could have been something if it had a good script.
I mean, you can say that for anything. Like, this movie was shit. But if it was better, it would be good. Ooh, am I allowed to say that? It's controversial. Okay, so I'm trying something a little bit different here today. Hopefully it actually turns out to be good and worth it, because I spent a bunch of time trying to set up this whole, you know, the screen recorder thing. And since you've already read the title, you already know what it is that I'm about to do. And that is reading bad reviews for my favorite movies. And yeah, I don't know, I'm probably about to get a bit pissed off at some of these, and I don't know, maybe this is a fun idea. I've got both Letterboxd and IMDB open just because they're sort of different communities. They're like, they have kind of a different vibe. Letterboxd reviews tend to try to be funny. It's full of very snarky people, but also people that I feel like really do belong in the kind of film community. Letterboxd is like a great place to see what people really think, but it's very succinct. Not that many people write out very long, big reviews. Usually it's like one line or it's a joke or something like that, so there's that. And then there is IMDB, which is really full of people that get legitimately just angry. IMDB, I admit, is kind of the old man version of Letterboxd. I'm a big fan of it still. I use it daily, literally. I love IMDB, but I understand that Letterboxd is like the cooler, trendier, younger kind of place if you want to write reviews and stuff. Let's get to it. So I'm reading bad reviews. The first movie that I'm looking at is Nightcrawler, because this is my favorite movie of all time. This one's kind of funny.
I just wanted to watch Drive the whole time.
Like, I kind of... I do kind of understand that a little bit, except that I think Nightcrawler is tons better, but like, whatever.
He didn't crawl, he walked.
See, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Letterboxd reviews, just trying to be funny. Then there's this one.
Maybe it's Jake Gyllenhaal I dislike, or maybe it's just this entire movie.
That makes me sad to read because I love Jake Gyllenhaal so much. This person gave a fantastic review, but gave it half a star. I imagine that must be a mistake.
He didn't even crawl, he barely squatted.
Yeah, alright. I've already read that joke once now.
I watched this on a date in 2015 with an art guy who had already seen it and thought it was amazing. I thought it was dreadful, but also that I might have been missing something, so I sheepishly pretended to also be impressed.
Alright, you shouldn't do that, I guess. I then tried to watch it a few years later to see what indeed I had been missing, and couldn't get through the first half hour. Truly one of those movies that makes you question whether men, especially men named Dan, should be allowed to make movies. What is... I don't know what that means. I don't like those types of reviews. Like, oh no, a man made this movie. How bad.
I know people like this film, but man, I found it so boring.
I don't understand, but fair enough.
Jake felt super flat.
Literally, objectively, his best performance. Nightcrawler is Jake Gyllenhaal's best.
Like, yeah, he goes to extreme lengths, but I also hold no illusions of what sensationalist news requires, and that it exists, and sometimes people go to strange and extreme lengths. Obviously not as extreme as Lou's orchestrated multiple murder and car crash climax, but that was the sociopathic side of the character desperate for fame. I found it an uncompelling look at the seedy side of fast-paced sensationalist broadcast journalism.
Alright, fair enough. That's actually fair criticism. At least you actually gave it some respect and actually said what it was trying to do. I agree with what you're saying the movie is, and it definitely delves into whether Lou Bloom is, you know, a character who is just evil because he's evil, or if it's because his job kind of requires it and all that stuff, and who's to blame for that, because there is obviously a level of supply and demand. You know, people want to see the things that he films in the movie and everything.
Literally single worst movie I have ever seen. I will never think Jake Gyllenhaal is hot again.
I don't care. I hate when people make it all about the people's looks and stuff. That's not what I'm interested in.
What the hell did I just watch? This film is about Jake Gyllenhaal and his burning need to impersonate a living search engine, spitting out random facts with no hint of critical thinking, stalking and threatening women to assert his status as alpha search engine.
I do kind of like the analysis that he's kind of a search engine, because the dude ain't human. Lou Bloom is just not a normal fucking guy, so... yeah, I guess he's like a search engine but I'm not seeing why you think this is a bad thing.
Feeling more and more disheartened by this movie as time passes from seeing it. It's hard for me to believe that Gilroy wanted much more than to show how smart he is about violence and media and corporate greed.
That is what it's about.
The nail in the coffin was the death of Rick, a shameless ratcheting up of the sociopathic behavior that had been established then shoved down our throats, without an interest in how it affects people.
I think it definitely has an interest on how this affects people.
This movie isn't interested in people. Rick only exists for us to laugh at with Lou when he realizes he could have asked for a bigger raise.
I don't think that Nightcrawler has that sort of an outright sense of humor. It does have some in there, but I don't think we're supposed to be laughing at him in the scenes where he's being overpowered by Lou Bloom. I think we're more supposed to see this guy who obviously has this strong ambition, but the point is, I think it's more about Lou Bloom than anyone else.
Again, like Good Time.
This isn't off to a good start because Good Time is also great.
A great central performance does not a good movie make.
Okay, I can see that. Like, you might not have liked the actual thing, but at least you can say that Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing in it because he is. I fucking hate this movie. It's well made and is shot beautifully and the plot is fantastically written. On all accounts, a good movie, but I fucking hate this movie. Rick should not have died, and Lou should not have gotten away scot-free. I'm tired of movies where the awful white male anti-hero gets away with everything. Look, okay, they've said that it's a good movie, but they just actually fucking hate what's in it. And that does make sense to me, but that also brings into question, what are you supposed to rate something like that on Letterboxd? When, you know, you don't like the choices, but it was well made, and then, you know, because everybody has their own criteria, that's why movies can have such varying sort of reviews.
I fell asleep.
How?
I thought Nightcrawler was someone from X-Men.
And therefore, because he's not Blue, he's not Nightcrawler, this is a terrible movie.
Get ready for one of the most callous and black-hearted stories ever told.
Yes, but it's a 10 out of 10 though.
While patiently sitting through this reeking heap of modern-day stench, slime and grease, the following 3 questions, as well as others, came readily to mind. 1. Was I really supposed to like this sleazy, low-life bastard of a character named Lou Bloom?
No, you weren't. Lou Bloom is the villain. And this is where you're going to get people not liking Nightcrawler. You're going to get people saying that he's a horrible person and whatever, don't agree with his actions. And to those people, I got to tell you, you don't have to actually agree with the people like the protagonist in a movie. Because I certainly do not agree with what Lou Bloom does. He is vile, he's a horrible human being, and he's definitely a sociopath. But he's so captivating. That's what makes the story so good. Okay, you know what? This one is fair. This one is a criticism that I have of the movie.
The movie has a very loose grip on reality. The interest in video footage by the news channels seems like something that belongs way prior to the cell phone era.
I agree with that. Like, I feel like, you know, social media times and everything has kind of changed this aspect of the movie a little bit. Like, it didn't come out too long ago. Maybe things were a little bit different, you know, 2014. We're nearing a decade now, kind of, in a few years. But still, you know, social media was around in 2014 as well, so I don't think it's changed all that much. And TV was really on its way out. It's just kind of becoming more and more of an irrelevance. And I do actually agree with that kind of critique.
This movie was very slow, tedious at times, and very unsatisfying as a plot.
I disagree that it's slow. I don't think it's slow. I think when you look at a movie that is compelling, it kind of can't be slow. Even if not that much is happening, everything adds to character. But if a movie isn't that good and it's boring, then it's slow. I don't know, that's very subjective. Like, I'm acting like that's objective, but that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Where, like, it's like when people say that Breaking Bad starts off really slow in the first couple of seasons, and I'm sitting there like, how do you think that? No, it doesn't. Everything adds to Walter White as a character, building him up. It doesn't start slow. There's a lot of things going on. All right, let's get out of Nightcrawler. Let's talk Happy Death Day. Another movie that I absolutely love.
This was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Bullshit! Bullshit, I say!
Can't believe they made 2 other movies after this one cause this one sucked.
No, they didn't. They made one other movie, but that's okay.
This movie sucks. Forgettable one-dimensional
characters, obviously story arc, the terrible pacing. How has it got terrible pacing? I don't understand how you can think that. I don't... Legitimately, when you're actually looking at Happy Death Day, like, I hate to admit it, but there's a formula to it, you know? It's the whole Groundhog Day formula mixed with a slasher. There's nothing bad about the pacing, if you ask me. Alright, I'll be honest, the reviews over here on Letterboxd are boring me. Let's jump over to IMDB, shall we?
Top 5 worst movies I have ever seen. This was comedic.
I don't understand. This was... Oh, Like comedic, like, I'm so sorry, I'm done. They're saying that the movie is a joke.
This is just bad. Lots of plot holes and very exaggerated characters. Just bad.
I'm not one that complains about plot holes, but for one, actually say what they are, and for two, what's wrong with exaggerated characters? This is kind of a cartoony film, like it's obviously going for something that is a bit more comedic, and I don't think exaggerated characters is a fair criticism when it comes to a movie like this. You know, you go to some very serious movie about, I don't know, World War II or something, and exaggerated characters, you know, you can kind of read that off as being sort of offensive because of the source material. Is that what you would call World War II source material? That sounds bad. Because it's real life events, you might not want exaggerated characters there, is what I'm saying. But when it comes to something that is kind of silly, like Happy Death Day, what's so bad about exaggerated characters? That's just what you don't like. That's not a bad movie. This is a good film. If your brain is gone.
The bad thing is that these days filmmakers seem to pay for good reviews. This is just unfair and really sad.
That is such fucking bullshit.
Don't waste your time. Also are not PG-13. This movie feels like a bunch of kids put a school project together and this was it. The writing is amateur and the language and expressions are not only bad,
but very inappropriate for a 13-year-old. Sorry? Not PG-13. Ah, okay. Yeah, so they're saying there's a problem that it was rated PG-13, should have been rated R because I guess it was too violent and inappropriate and whatever. Whatever, I don't know. I don't even know what PG-13 or R ratings need because we don't have those over here, so I don't care.
I really doubt for the taste in movies of most of you here.
I know, because I really love this movie. Next up is Parasite, because who the hell could say anything bad about Parasite, surely, right? First review here on Letterboxd just says, I don't like Asians. I'm sure that's just a joke.
Not George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle lover. That's actually fucking so good. There you go, you get a follow. I like it. Keep doing what you're doing. That's good.
Not gonna lie, I heard a lot about this movie, but I didn't enjoy it. It was
so boring.
It was 2 hours of talking and 5 minutes of stabbing.
I mean, I suppose it was, but like, I don't understand how you can think it was boring.
Should have spoke American. I will wait for the dub.
I worry that's for real. It's probably not. They're just trying to be funny because, again, it's Letterboxd. But I feel like there would be a lot of people that actually do have that opinion. Hey, it's a different day, can you tell? Yeah, some things got interrupted when I was doing the thing yesterday. But to you, it makes no difference. So there's no need to announce that it's a different day. But it is a different day. Apparently I'm not signed in anymore. That's cool. Who cares? I don't need to be signed in. More negative reviews. It's killing my soul a little bit, but let's do it. Back to Letterboxd, and now we're talking Hereditary, because Hereditary is undeniably an amazing film. I don't love the ending, I'll admit, but it's an amazing film. Let's see what people have to say.
Easily one of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
Boring as fuck. Fuck this movie and fuck you, Ari Aster.
Yo, I was so bored for 2 hours and then all of a sudden there's naked middle-aged people in the forest and he starts floating around and he's the Satan King. What the fuck?
You know, I kind of agree, apart from like the first few hours being boring. I think this is an amazing film. But the random naked people at the end and like he's a demon or whatever the fuck. I'm not the biggest fan of the ending, but that's okay.
Holy shit, the scene where she was in the ceiling cutting her own head off.
I laughed my ass off. And I'm sitting there like horrified at that. Like she's using piano wire and like that will never leave my mind because it's so fucked.
If I could rate this any lower I would. It was extremely boring and unnecessarily gory. Although I am a fan of gore, I believe even fans of gore wouldn't enjoy this movie because of its boring plot.
Nah. Disagree.
Okay, so maybe this movie was just overhyped to me and thus I went in with too high expectations.
Or not.
It's just not that good of a movie in my opinion. Sure, there's some cool little details like the shots of the naked cult people getting closer and closer as the movie continues, or the kid's head getting removed.
That's one way to put it, the kid's head getting removed. But honestly, that's kind of it.
The story itself just feels paper thin to me and I never really feel the suspense nor do I really feel captured by the movie at any time. One of my biggest problems with the movie already starts at the beginning. Like, what mother makes your teenage son take your youngest daughter to a freaking party? Like, what?
Fair enough, I guess.
No horse content at all. Very disappointing. Boring. Doesn't make sense. Relying on a gore factor.
I disagree. I'm seeing a few here that are like, it was too gory and whatever, but Hereditary, it's few and far between, I feel like, the gore. There's the decapitation scene, which is maybe the most shocking movie scene I've ever seen in my life, in a fantastic way. I love the way that the kid just stops. He just stops dead. Just doesn't know what to do and just drives home. I find that so realistic. He's just so in shock that he just goes home, because what the fuck else is he gonna do? This is so out of his realm. This is so out of normal reality that you wouldn't know what to do. Anyway, but the violence, there's the decapitation scene, and then there's at the end, she's doing the piano wire and stuff. I feel like he smashes his head on the table. I don't know. I just don't think that gore really is that much of an emphasis in this movie, to be honest. It's an element. It's there, but it's in, service to the story. I don't think the point is gore. I'm surprised some people have a problem with that.
I remember watching this with my ex. Still sucks ass fucking shit. An ugly kid doesn't make it creepy. Freaking A24 hipster crap.
Okay. See, there's this love for A24, or is it A24? I always say A24. Anyway, there's this just blind love, and then there's this blind hatred, and you gotta stick in the middle there with all this kind of stuff. The same thing for, I don't know, for anything really, for DC, DC, the DCEU. The people that love it will love anything that comes out of it. The people that hate it, they're just like, it's so shit, Marvel's so much better, or whatever. It's like, just take them one at a time. I think Birds of Prey is amazing. I think Batman vs Superman, not so great. Probably the worst, or if not worst in general, film I've ever sat through. Hereditary is the worst film you've ever sat through. You've not watched many movies. Watch B-movie. Literally the worst movie I've ever watched. It's people exaggerating. I don't think any of them think that they actually think that. It's exaggerating. The worst movie I've ever seen in my life, it's not going to be something I just didn't like but is good. Does that make sense? What's a movie? I don't like, what's that movie called? Oh no. No, now I have to look it up. Ballerina horror movie. What's that called? Suspiria. I really did not like Suspiria. But I won't say that it was terrible. I just know it wasn't for me. I didn't like the choices it made. But I think I did give it a half-star on Letterboxd as well. So I'm a total hypocrite, actually. But I don't know. There is a difference between just not liking something and thinking something is bad. You Don't Mess with the Zohan is objectively bad. But Suspiria is subjectively bad to me. Yeah. And now Hereditary on IMDB.
I'm upset I spent money to see this repellent junk. If this had been just a drama, it would have been great. A family seemingly under a curse, careening out of control like a family in an ancient Greek play, such as Orestia. In that, Clytemnestra kills her returning husband, Agamemnon, in revenge for his ritual killing of their daughter, Iphigenia.
The addition of what are they talking about? It ruined the bones of a good movie, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, no, I agree. The addition of the witchcraft was unnecessary and it ruined the bones of a good movie. I do agree. I think that Hereditary's best stuff is the family drama, not the horror, weirdly enough, even though I love the movie.
Wretched piece of garbage with no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
No redeeming qualities? What about Toni Collette, dude? Come on, man. Toni Collette. You gotta be honest. That she's great in that movie.
I can't believe the rave reviews. The first hour is boring.
Disagree.
With lots of eerie music, and you are just waiting for something interesting or scary to happen.
See, no, I'm not. Because it is scary. You don't need something jumping out at you to be scared.
Then you get a series of arbitrary shock scenes where people you don't care about die.
You're going to say that the scene where Charlie gets decapitated, that's arbitrary and that's just a shock scene, just to shock. That's an insane opinion. Very bad film. I hate it. Very bad film. I hate it. It's very bad. I didn't like it at all. Alright, let's get on to the next one. So Letterboxd, this is for the first...
Keep asking myself why they don't die.
I don't like the attitude when it comes to horror movies where they're like, I keep asking myself why they don't die. I don't like when people pick apart horror movies so much. They're like, they shouldn't have done this. If it were me, I would have been perfect. I would have done this and this and I would have survived. It's like, shut up. These people are stressed. They're in very stressful situations. I don't know. I don't pick apart movies that way.
This movie was horrible. One of the killers was kinda hot though.
Great. That's a great review, isn't it? See, that's what you get on Letterboxd sometimes, just nonsense reviews like that.
Horrifying. This film is. Scream. I did not.
Perhaps the crappiest, laziest idea for a horror film conceptually since Saw. This came out before Saw. Anyway, intellectually, Ghostface is the Deadpool surrogate for horror. And there is no greater crime against the genre than this film's success. What are you talking about? May I suggest Unfriended from 2014? You're an insane person, Bedhead Bernie. Unfriended is better than Scream. What are you talking about?
Poo poo caca. Kevin Williamson is a genius because he wrote a horror movie that tells you out loud it's a horror movie every 5 minutes. So meta. So clever.
I think the first Scream is definitely a meta film that plays with the tropes and all that shit. But I don't think it's that in your face. I mean, it's pretty on the nose. It's pretty obvious that that's what it's doing. But I think first and foremost, it is what it's criticizing. It is a slasher film that's just having a bit more fun with it. I think a movie that takes that too far, obviously would be something like Scary Movie. Like, that's obviously just trying so hard to be funny and a satirical take on horror. So much more than Scream, which first and foremost is a horror film, you know what I mean? I really want to like this movie after that Drew Barrymore scene, but this movie thinks it's so smart. So smart. That's how you're supposed to read it. Can say I enjoyed this movie. Can't, I guess they meant to. Can't say I enjoyed this movie, because I didn't. It was the worst thing to happen to the horror genre in the 90s. It was like the definitive best thing that happened. But okay.
You know the formula. They're so overplayed.
Dude, this is Wes Craven who was literally fucking with the formula. That was the whole point. Now back to IMDb.
Did anyone buy the resolution to this plot? The motives were lame and the bloodshed senseless. Two obvious idiots running around unnoticed in bizarre get-ups as if they had some sort of paranormal ability.
Killing it well. That's true. They're kind of magical. They don't get killed sometimes and all that stuff. But that's the fun of it. It's a slasher movie. I don't know.
Who, in the end, not only have to explain the whole plot to the last victim, actually more cliche than cliche, but stab each other. This is their alibi before killing her.
I'll give you that. It's very much a James Bond-like, I'll tell you why.
Come on. Even my 6-year-old was scared until the end when she pronounced the whole thing stupid. I realized this movie was geared toward teenagers struggling with attention deficit disorder.
Deficit disorder or crack addiction. You're being boring.
Probably the most harmful and irresponsible movie ever. This is hands down the worst movie I have ever seen.
So many reviews say that. I guess somebody has to think... I guess every movie that has ever existed is somebody's worst movie ever. But I still feel like every time I read it, they're exaggerating. Oh, but whoa, this review is from 1999. Oh shit, I've been forgetting to look at the dates. That's actually like kind of an important part about this, isn't it? Okay, so all these so far are from 1999. So that's actually kind of interesting. Alright, so this is
hands down the worst movie I have ever seen. I only sat all the way through it because I kept hoping that there would be something redeeming at the end. Something to justify the intense violence and sick humor. There was nothing. The ending left me cold and feeling sick. Perhaps that's what Wes Craven wanted.
Oh, that's so weird because they wrote this when Wes Craven was still alive and was still gonna make more Scream movies.
To all the people that love this movie, you really need to ask yourselves what you loved about it.
You need to think about it very carefully and do some serious soul searching. Personally, I actually felt violated after watching it. One of the few movies I've actually regretted watching. There was simply nothing positive to be gained from it. Blah, blah, blah. Misunderstanding. Blah, blah, blah. Shame on you, Wes Craven. That's practically the definition of evil. That Wes Craven is getting rich off of things that are extremely violent and horrific. Man. You're going to hate what the 2000s have to offer.
This movie is done by a once-was-a-good director, Wes Craven. This film is what I classify as a jack-in-the-box film. Some jumps from behind a couch and everyone in the cinema jumps.
Oh, this person from the year 2000, ahead of your time. You're not going to like what comes out of the 2000s. Cancer! Scream is a cancer that has spread and infected nearly all those who have watched it. A cancer that has killed the horror genre. I actually somewhat agree that it did kind of kill the horror genre. A little bit. Though Scream is fantastic, I think that it kind of made fun of the horror genre a little bit at the time that it came out, where it was very much a popular genre that was getting very overdone. People were getting sick of it. So that when Scream kind of made fun of all the cliches, people were like, hey, shit, wait a minute. Yeah, let's stop paying attention to all these really formulaic movies and everything. I kind of do think Scream did that. Although this person's very angry in 2001. Now onto Letterboxd. These will all obviously be much newer. And this is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Freddy is the lamest classic monster. Jason and Michael Myers rule.
How do you think that? Freddy has so much more personality. Michael Myers is boring. Ooh, am I allowed to say that? It's controversial. Our horror professor made us read... Horror professor? I want a horror professor. Made us read an article
right after watching this movie about how Nancy is manifesting an incestuous relationship with her dad by seeing Freddy Krueger, and I never hated a movie more.
What? Did I miss something? Maybe. I feel like you're reading into that too much.
This stupid ass movie is the reason I want to stop watching slashers. It's so fucking shit. For a long time people told me this film was good. People laughed at me in disbelief when I said I hadn't seen it. People shook their heads when I said I didn't want to watch it because it looked cheesy and awful and better remembered for nostalgia than for
actually being a good film. But people kept on bugging me. People kept telling me to watch it. People are total assholes and this film is total shit. The best thing about it is the ending, which caused me to laugh hysterically. I hate when people are like, this thing is funny, when it's not. Watched for 15 minutes and turned it off. Don't waste your time. Give it more of a chance than that.
Supposed to be a fright film.
Supposed to be.
What could be more overrated than this? The other day some friends told me they didn't watch horror movie because every one of them was cheesy and predictable. At the time I wasn't exactly sure what they were watching to make them think that, but now I know. A Nightmare on Elm Street.
The horror movies that came out in the 80s and stuff, like the original ones, the Halloween, Friday the 13th, the big three, the big three. People will criticize movies retroactively for being predictable. But these movies were the trendsetters. The original Nightmare on Elm Street was the movie that kind of started these predictable cliches and all that stuff. These were not things that were happening prior to these.
Believe it or not, this movie is just pure crap. But this movie could have been something if it had a good script.
I mean, you can say that for anything. This movie was shit. But if it was better, it would be good.
Besides Johnny Depp, this was the worst horror movie imaginable.
Freddy Krueger was a friggin' clown and a putz. The main character was the worst actress since the backup extra from my 7th grade school play. This whole movie was a joke, especially the visible mattress when Freddy fell over the stair. See, that's some shit. I don't know what they're... I don't recognize that. Is there really a part where there's just a mattress? That's funny as. But again, even if I did notice that, when I'm watching a movie, if I notice something like that, like I was watching Saw 3 recently with my wife. She pointed out there was this continuity problem with Amanda standing in front of this cabinet that had blood all over it and stuff. In some shots the blood was there, and in some it was just completely clean and nothing was there. And like some people I'm sure would watch Saw 3 and be like, there's a continuity error, this is a shit movie. I'm just like, that's funny, that's neat. I guess even like the Hollywood people that I look up to are still human and also make slight fuck ups. Like, it's just not that big of a deal. But I don't know. People get really mad about stuff like this. Now on to Letterboxd, and these are the John Wick reviews.
People kill man's dog. Man kill people. It's like a movie that caters to cavemen who can't follow a complex storyline.
No, I think the simplicity of John Wick is what makes it such a classic. Like, you are on board for everything John Wick is doing. Just because of the dog, it's as simple as that, and I appreciate the simplicity. I think that it, if anything, a more convoluted story about like... being honest, they get into that a bit in the sequels, but a more convoluted story about like the assassin group is part of, and like, I don't know, like the mafia and all of their kind of ongoings within and shit. Like, that's just not what appeals to me personally. I don't know. But yeah, I disagree with that. I think the simplicity is kind of the beauty of John Wick.
Forced storyline, weak plot, half star for fight choreography.
Half a star for the fight choreography? John Wick revolutionized the action genre in the 2010s. Like, everybody wants to be John Wick now. You look at Birds of Prey, you look at that recent Gunpowder Milkshake. The Night Comes For Us, that was more trying to be the Raid / John Wick kind of thing, and succeeded. That movie's fucking sick.
I saw John Wick for the first time last night. I was amazed. I mean, what the absolute fuck. After the setup, it was basically one violent murder session. The setup was the most perfunctory excuse for what followed possible. Laughable doesn't begin to describe it. If this is what script writing has become, then I'm getting into it.
No, That's the thing as well. This is something that I see a lot of people doing with movies where they don't like it or they think dumb things happen. And often you'll hear somebody being like, I could have written this. I'm not a writer, but even I could have done this. Like, this is just... No, because even if it is simple and he's just killing people, there's so much work behind it. There's so much thought behind it. It really takes skill to tell a minimal storyline, a minimal plot. Writing is hard. I don't really do it because it's hard. I've tried and I've given up very quickly because it's hard.
His fights have always looked like he was dancing, like choreographed.
Yeah, no, I can see what you mean, though, that things can be a little bit too perfect. John Wick, I do think, falls into that, where I think that the movie Nobody improved upon that formula and made Bob Odenkirk, like, stumble about. He's really getting beaten up and shit. Like, he's not just, like, this perfect ballerina killing everybody like John Wick is. But... I don't think Nobody happens if not for John Wick. So now on to Letterboxd. This is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We've got Scarlett Johansson, but no Cheadle. Not good enough. And it's got... Wait, what's this? Is this something that he says in every single review? I love these pages. Oh, it's not. No Cheadle, no stars. Some of them are and some of them aren't. I feel like if you're going to commit to the bit, you gotta commit to the bit, you know? You gotta do it for everything and not actually write what you think. Make 2 accounts, guy.
No movie has ever made me feel so utterly gaslit by everyone else. Excruciating pain of hospital waiting room aesthetics with some strains of propaganda and dog shit
action set pieces. While some movies make me ask, what's wrong with me? I have enough pride to turn it around, so I will. What the fuck is wrong with all of you? Damn. I think I just got because Winter Soldier's my favorite MCU movie. The stench explodes!
I was forced to watch this horror by people who should have known me better. The only movie I really wanted to watch this week was a Polish film, Ida, which was playing nowhere.
Oh, there was somebody that didn't want to see an MCU movie that just got dragged to it. Then Infinity War.
Bring back Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I agree. Half a star because he's not in it.
Lame and gay.
Really? In 2021, somebody is still... using gay as like a that's bad thing. Like, dude, seriously? People don't do that anymore, I hope. It certainly is large. Lots of flashing lights and loud noises, little else. Went home and watched The Wolverine, the second one. To be reminded of what I like in a popcorn flick. You know what? The Wolverine is underrated. Go you, Pete 230.
This movie sucks. I almost left the theater half through the show.
This is not Marvel. This is junk! I don't understand that. This is not Marvel. Man, this is what Marvel's been leading towards. What are you talking about?
Boring. Stereotypical, American action film, with too much comedy thrown in. Way too campy. Marvel movies are just horrible.
I really disagree with all of the people who always say that Marvel has too much comedy. I don't understand that. I don't think the comedy has ever kind of like made the tension worse for me. I don't relate to that issue. I'm cool with the comedy. The comedy's always welcome for me, just personally. All right, now I'm doing Saw because you know I had to do Saw. Come on, I wasn't gonna not cover Saw, and these are gonna be brutal, I imagine.
Why the fuck does anybody actually like watching these movies?
Because is my answer to that.
I'm so horny. Someone wake me up from this nightmare.
What are you talking about? Why do people write reviews like that? What does that mean?
One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, and I can't and won't trust the opinion of anyone who thinks this movie is any good. This movie sucked. I don't think I've ever watched a film where I immediately want to cyberbully the director afterwards.
Don't you touch James Wan. Excuse me. He's the king of horror, and you will respect him. I never saw this movie. Boring, boring, boring. Everyone's opinions are boring. That's what I've learned making this video. And now Saw, and these are going to be from 2004. These are going to be fresh out of cinema reviews.
Positive reviewers. Exactly what movie did you see? Because it wasn't Saw. Shamelessly derivative 7N and Silence of the Lambs, serving as the most prominent inspirations for Saw's blatant imitation.
You know what? This is well written. I respect this review. I get where you're coming from. You know, a lot of people do say that it is derivative of Saw. I personally disagree, but this isn't this guy's weird, unique opinion that nobody agrees with or whatever. That I've seen that before. People do think that. So, fair enough, guy. Whatever.
Rip-off/remake of 7, Cops. You have guns. The guy in the death machine? Stop screaming at each other unnecessarily and do something about blowing the thing apart.
If it were me, I would have been perfect.
Ending? You'll see it coming.
Come on, bullshit. Bullshit. You'll see it coming. Fuck off. Didn't see that coming. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I have seen better acting in nativity plays.
What an utter load of shite. Why do people say shite and not shit? Is that... I guess that's like an Irish thing or something, but like, it just means shit, right? Difference between shit and shite. So I'm reading contradictory things. Some people seem to think shite is stronger than shit, and others say shite is more like a playful version of shit. So I don't know. Anyway, next up is Saw 3 on Letterboxd. So I just chose another random Saw. I didn't want to do all of them, but I chose Saw 3.
You've been dethroned 2018 Predator. I now have a new least favorite movie.
Really? Saw 3 specifically is your least favorite horror movie?
This movie made me wish Jigsaw would torture me in 1001 different ways if it meant he wouldn't give me that morality speech bullshit.
I agree that the morality speech bullshit is bullshit. I've made videos about that. Definitely the worst one of them all. Rancid trash. Where the fuck does Jigsaw get his pigs? That's a good question. I'm so done with these movies. I'm so done with these reviews on Letterboxd. Let's go to 2006 Saw 3 IMDB reviews.
I was a fan of the first Saw.
Ooh, that's interesting. 2006 review from somebody who was a fan of the first one.
I found the very tightly knitted mix of horror, suspense and twists, and the unpredictability of the relatively new concept really intriguing. Having missed Saw 2, I watched Saw 3 hoping that the initial formula had somehow been extended and maintained. I was most certainly disappointed. The first few challenges were nothing more than a gorefest. The thrill and suspense of the challenges faced in the original Saw replaced with ideas designed to do nothing more than test how well you could hold onto your last meal. There was no rhyme, no reason, and paper-thin plots.
There's not a paper-thin plot. That's bullshit. Yeah, that's bullshit. Look at this 2006 review making me angry. Look, I'll give you, yeah, there's no good reason that the people were put in traps, and yes, it's much more about the gore than, you know, other things. Come each sequel, as we now know in 2021. But it does not have a paper-thin plot. You didn't watch Saw 2. Clearly you're missing out on vital information. After enduring the first 20 minutes of blood and guts, the storyline of the movie started to develop, but it was hard to actually connect with... That's because you didn't watch Saw 2. I'm done with you. I love when people write titles like these. Wow, my jaw literally dropped at how awful this movie was.
Are you kidding me? I am glad I didn't pay the $3 to rent this wretched movie.
Oh, this is from 2007. They're probably talking about the DVD. Oh, they're not talking about like a digital copy. They're talking about renting the DVD. Oh, I miss my younger years. And now Insidious.
As the first horror movie I've ever watched, I can't quite say this movie does the genre any justice. The logic between the spiritual world is just flawed and has too many loose holes. The camera work sometimes does this odd Blair Witch home video effect and it just feels out of place.
The camera work does creative stuff. James Wan does creative stuff with the camera when they're in the further to kind of emphasize how out of the world the further is.
The actual horror and scary part of this movie has no shock or scare value.
Well, personally, I was terrified when I saw it in cinemas. Initially, I set out to watch this movie because I'd heard from many people how scary it was, and frankly, my goal was to justify my position that they were all wussies. Well, that joke was on me. I was right, everyone I know is chicken, but this movie is not scary, but it's also not even remotely entertaining. Alright, congrats, you weren't scared. This person really doesn't like astral projection. Literally all of their problems, their major complaints have to do with astral projection.
I forgot to say, but this part's about the Conjuring.
This movie is my 13th reason.
I'm guessing that's a 13 Reasons Why reference, which is weird for a 2021 review, but whatever.
Terrible. So terribly disappointed. I firmly believe all the pre-release hype was generated from whatever marketing company the studio used to get people into the theaters to watch this piece of crap. There was only one single 5-second scene which I thought had any redeeming qualities.
What's-her-face was hanging the laundry on the line. Everything else was crap!
Perhaps the worst movie in existence.
Come on, dude. Come on. And now the Terminator, the original Terminator. Who can have a problem with the Terminator?
I really tried with the Terminator, but while there's some groundwork for the sequel, this film features awful effects.
Awful effects? Awful effects?
Awful romance. And an awful musical score.
Awful musical score! I'm not a score guy. I'm not a soundtrack guy. I'm so bad with music. I forget everything. I'm not a music guy. But awful musical score? Dude, the Terminator is like the one theme I can hum on a whim. Like, the Terminator theme is the definitive fucking film score in my head. That and Saw. Those are like the ones that I really, really remember. And then the obvious ones like Star Wars and whatever, obviously. But yeah, I'm very bad with score a lot of the time. But the Terminator is iconic for score. Shut up.
This movie really could have used stronger men. Bigger too.
Stronger and bigger than fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Genuinely one of the worst movies ever made. Infinite number of plot holes aside, the acting is piss poor.
Look, I watched Old, M. Night Shyamalan's Old. That is bad acting. And bad writing, bad lines. I don't know who in the Terminator you think is a bad actor. I don't really get that. Anyway, on to IMDb. Let's read some old reviews, shall we? Fun movie but ages poorly. Disagree. Where are the old reviews? Give me some old reviews from the 90s or whatever. Why are they all new? Oh wow, there's not that many. Oh, holy shit. We're already at 3. Oh wow. There's 970 reviews of the Terminator. And there's only 7 1 out of 10s for the first Terminator. Go IMDb. People actually appreciate this. That's interesting. That makes me kind of happy. Then The Nice Guys. The Nice Guys on Letterboxd.
The short guy bullied me. Not so nice after all.
I don't know what they're talking about. See, that first one, I feel like people try to be funny, and I don't understand what they're referencing.
I download this illegally but still want my money back.
That's kind of funny, but how can you not like The Nice Guys? Did not finish. Stopped after 20 minutes. 20 minutes! 3 words, a stupid fucking movie. It's not stupid. See, I'm getting sick of everyone's opinions now. Oh look, the greatest buddy cop film? Yeah, 10 out of 10. I want to read more 10 out of 10 reviews now. Because I'm sick of all these fucking bad reviews.
I do not understand why this movie needed to be set in the 70s.
What do you mean? It didn't need to be, it just was.
No one would be playing Pong at home on a screen.
In the 70s? Oh no, what a bad movie because they're playing ping pong at home. Oh, 1 out of 10. They didn't play ping pong at home in the 70s. Fuck this movie. Yeah, okay, I'm done with you. What's the point in calling it a sequel if you're gonna remake the mediocre original at the same time? Yeah, look, Evil Dead 2 is basically the same movie as the first, but like just heaps better.
Sorry, still can't do it. I don't get the appeal of these films. I gotta say, however, Crazed Deerhead +1 star.
I appreciate that.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? 4 stars? No way, fam. This movie totally sucked. As a fan of Ed 1 and the remake, this one has barely any plot. It just tosses you into demon infestation galore in an overloaded budget. It honestly feels like the director had access to infinity money. So he wanted every single idea he had to occur. Dude, Sam Raimi did not have infinite money at this time. This is still a fairly budget. Whatever. I'm done with this. Let's get to the next movie. Oh no, IMDb, sorry. IMDb, review from 1999. This is the definition of a setup movie. How can a director get from Evil Dead to Army of Darkness?
I disagree with that.
Proud to go against the grain. It's not every day that I'm able to go totally against the popular majority. I'm all for cheesy B movies, but this pushes the limits. At one point I actually saw the cup the blood was thrown out of.
That's so funny. I gotta make a video about all these small little things that I don't actually notice, because the mattress that they mentioned before in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and apparently this cup of blood in Evil Dead 2. Those are just funny little moments that I like. Like, that doesn't make me dislike it or anything. I think that's just funny. Okay, Short Term 12. This is a movie that I watched recently for the first time, and it is beautiful, and this is gonna hurt to read people say that it's bad.
Watch this on autopilot. Damn, what a waste of 90 odd minutes. Give me Pulp Fiction any day over this. I've forgotten most of it already. Brie Larson looks 12.
Yeah, great criticism, dude. You know what? I'm so sick of Brie Larson hate. It is so annoying. Like, she's a really good actor. The internet hates Brie Larson for no reason.
Watching this made me want to start a worst of 2013 list.
Really? Now we're at the 1 stars already, because there are not a lot of half stars, because I don't even know who could possibly dislike Short Term 12, to be honest.
This shit's just like a pretentious circle jerk of sadness. No action.
No action in Short Term 12? Yeah, Short Term 12's a shit movie because there was no action.
No real eye-catching scenes, no mystery, no comedy, no thrill. Very poorly presented film.
What do you think it was going for? No mystery, no comedy, no action. Wrong movie.
I'm a man and this movie was not made for me. Not interested.
What? Short Term 12 isn't made for men, I guess. It's not a manly film. Short Term 12. okay. And now we're at the 2s already because there's not that many 1 out of star ones. That's good. Though there are only 183 reviews, so not that many people saw it. And then A Ghost Story. Oh boy, people are just going to say this is boring.
I've literally never hated a movie more in my entire life. Seriously. A slow burn implies that it had any intensity at all. Ever wanted to be simultaneously very bummed and so bored that you became angry? This film. So much passionate hatred. This is the film equivalent of just slapping a fucking tissue on a canvas and then having the true art lovers just fucking die over it. It's so deep. No. It's a woman eating pie.
Okay. It's a woman eating pie. You know, I'm not a fan of the controversial eating a pie scene. I get what it's going for. It's like, this is real. This is showing her her deep grief. It went for too long. But the rest of the movie is so beautiful and unique and really gives me weirdly a bit of comfort about the afterlife, which is a thing that in my general life, let's not get too personal, but concerns me very much. I'm very scared of death.
This belongs to the Arrival category of movies.
Oh my god, this person doesn't like fucking Ghost Story or Arrival? I can't understand people sometimes.
I couldn't even finish. I just feel like some of these scenes go on way too long.
I think I know what scene you're talking about.
The trailer says Ghost Story. The movie says I have a vision but don't really know how to show it. All of the unsettling energy is there. What I imagine was the director trying to put us in the shoes of the dead. Was that it? Those left behind? How much time goes by in all of this? What was he saying? Because he certainly did a shoddy job of showing it. An utter disappointment.
Really? The whole thing about showing you the ghost perspective is like, it's so interesting. Like, if ghosts were ever to be real, which very arguable, I wouldn't say I particularly believe in ghosts, but if the afterlife did exist in this form, I think that this is probably the best guess that, like, this is probably accurate as best could be guessed. Does that make any sense?
Lost 2 hours of my life. I love a good spooky story. This was not one of them.
That's not really what a ghost story is going for. It's not trying to be a spooky story at all. It's going for the much more human approach. Then there's Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, my favorite horror comedy of all time.
Why did I let a German force me to watch this?
You need to say context with your reviews. I feel like that's a review where you're trying to be funny. Why did I let a German force me to watch it? But nobody understands what you're talking about. What German? What are you talking about? There's no context. Anyway, this movie is the worst, not very good. I didn't laugh once!
I'm actually quite disappointed. Maybe it subverts tropes, but it's not even remotely funny.
I can't believe there are people that don't think it's funny. I can't believe there are people that think it's not funny. Okay, but look, there's 334 reviews of this, and there's only 3 1 out of 10 reviews. So that's good. Most people do like this. I really like learning these things where people actually do just really like the movies that I love. It validates me. Then there's The Strangers Prey at Night. I've chosen this one because it deserves defending. It does. I fucking love The Strangers Prey at Night. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Oh god, that's bad. Get a half star for the pool scene.
The pool scene is fantastic.
Not as meme-worthy as the first.
Meme-worthy? You think the first The Strangers is meme-worthy? It's horrible. Look, The Strangers Prey at Night, if you ask me, is fantastic, and I think I'm done with these. I know that all of the things are just going to say they make dumb decisions and they're boring and all the characters are dumb. And you know what? All the characters are dumb is such a boring argument. It's such an overdone criticism. Like, I don't care. Alright, Monsters Inc. How can anybody possibly dislike Monsters Inc?
This movie is the origin of all my childhood trauma.
Alright, fair enough. That's why you don't like it. Childhood trauma.
Switching from a system of exploiting children's scream to exploiting children's laughter does not make you good guys. You are still exploiting child labor. Ethical capitalism does not exist.
Please don't take this too seriously. Alright, that's good. Oh, the reviews for these are just good. They're all actually funny. Mike Wazowski is going to steal my girl. I feel like people know when it comes to Monsters Inc. People get it. People get Monsters Inc. on Letterboxd. It speaks to the generation, the Letterboxd generation. IMDB, however, reviews from 2001, I don't think is going to tell the same story.
This movie didn't do anything right. The comedy was bad, the characters were completely undeveloped, and the story was just plain uninteresting and unintelligent. Save your money for Harry Potter.
Oh, you really dated yourself by saying that. Because the first Harry Potter would be out in 2001. I guess Monsters Inc. and Harry Potter were out at the same time. That's interesting.
A children's movie.
1 out of 10. Fuck you for being a child's movie. Yeah, okay. These people are actually just getting mad at fucking Monsters Inc. I can't deal. What else do I have? I'm done with that. Nocturnal Animals. To think that I made it further into the Cat in the Hat live action movie than this speaks volumes. Holy shit, does this movie suck? Oh, I'm bored. I'm bored of these. You're all boring. You have boring opinions. Come on, everyone loves Train to Busan. No one can say anything bad. Literally shit and diarrhea. How can you dislike fucking Train to Busan? No one's seen Triangle. I'm just going to skip it. I love Triangle. I think I'm done. I think I'm done reading these negative reviews, everyone. I can't do it. I think I'm done. I think this has bummed me out too much. I think I'm I think I'm leaving this one now. I think that's enough negativity for me. and all of them were just getting repetitive. Just all anybody can ever fucking say in their 1 out of 10 reviews is, this was boring, this was dumb. Like, there's just no real good criticism, you know? I mean, there is. But there also is a lot of crap criticism. I'm gonna get out of here. I think that's enough for me. I'm depressed now. I just want to talk about movies I love. All of the movies featured here are movies I love. But I'm done reading crap about them. I'm just done. And so yeah, if you liked this, let me know. I know it's a bit of a different formula. Maybe it's a bit long and boring. Maybe this doesn't quite work. It's the first time I've tried anything like this with the looking at my computer and doing the video. And yeah, if you do like the format, maybe I'll do a few more like this. But I'm done. I'm done for now. Thanks for watching this one. Gonna get out of here. Gonna skedaddle. And do the things, please. Please do the things, which are, of course, like and comment and share and subscribe. Goodbye.